You almost lost it, man. You almost lost
I
it.
messed it up. Yeah, yeah. I didn't even squeeze in a butthole before we started
Oh,
talking.
no, yeah, there we go. It
Yeah,
didn't take long on this particular one.
let me
Hello,
keep at least
everybody.
I didn't say the F bomb. And we'll
Yeah,
see how many people got the notice that that we're starting early as opposed to the original 8 o'clock. I adjusted it to 7:30 my time. But here I am coming to you live from the subarctic. It is Saturday, all day today, Saturday. We don't have any viewers yet, so there we are. We'll see them in a half
hey,
hour.
yeah, well, that's probably true. Should I have something where I name myself, or is that something you're supposed to do?
Oh, I do that. Yeah.
Oh, okay. So when you say here I
There.
am, the only person who's going to be mentioned is you.
Yeah, yeah. Oh, hey,
That's okay.
I can put something else on the screen. Hang on.
Hey, Vinny, how are you? What the
There
hell,
we go.
Vinny? Weren't we supposed to talk for like the last 6 weeks consecutively and never talked to?
The only time he has available is 8:30 on Saturday mornings, but you seem to be busy.
Yeah, yeah, really.
Sandy little butthole.
Two, two already. Boy, you are raring to go this morning at 7:30 your time.
Yep, yep. Here we are. I have no idea what we're going to talk about. I expect something. Last time we talked about
Hey, Justin.
what character development, right? Something like that.
Yeah, we were talking about, I think, just some of the different things that you can do, like 2 or 3 times back, and then we got about a quarter of the way in or something, and then people had some great questions, and we lost it. Do you remember this? It's like 4 weeks ago, something like that. No, no, not so much. Not you.
Ugh. Yeah, this morning was a full morning. I got my uh, Ian Bragg thriller. I finished the first book. I finished the rewrite and turned it over to the my beta readers.
Hey,
The
okay,
complete.
so give me the genesis of the name. Why did you go with Ian and Bragg?
I went with Ian because originally he was dual nationality, U.S. UK,
Mm-hmm.
and Bragg because I wanted a one syllable last name because of the 2 syllable first name.
Oh, see, I thought maybe Bragg was like Fort Bragg or something from that
No,
perspective.
no, no, just Ian Bragg. I wanted something really that was a hard hit and kind of a brag because he is not a braggart as an operator. So
Yeah.
I thought it was a little bit of a dichotomy. But the syllable names, I did a lot of research on this for the name of my main characters.
Mm-hmm.
So
Why and why? Because it seems really interesting that a lot of us gravitate to male names with the first letter J whenever we have these big badass individuals. John, Jake, you can keep on going through the list,
or
but
both of those, like
yeah,
uh,
John
uh,
Jakes.
well, John Ryan, we call him Jack.
Yes,
Yeah, for
yes.
Tom Clancy. So yes, you have John Milton. You have Vince Flynn's character, which is I forget what his name is, but it's that 1-2-2-1 kind of dynamic. Jack Reacher. You have uh, uh, so there's a certain Jack Noble from LT Ryan. You
Hmm.
have this certain dynamic. I didn't want a J, of course, because of those things. John
Because those
Milton,
all those successful ones, yeah.
all the successful ones. I'm
Only
going to
the success is only because of the J. The rest of it,
yeah, yeah. But
they're-
and for those folks out there, these are the kinds of things you need to think about and research before you start writing your character. So if you write something like a main character name that has 3 apostrophes in it, because some people go wild with their with the their alien names, and you have like 3 apostrophes and it's 9 letters long. Keep in mind, you're going to have to write that like 12,000 times as you're writing a book, and then maybe a whole series. So you might want to keep that trimmed a little bit. So Ian, 3 letters, IN, very quick to type. So it that worked for me.
see John Wick, as Melissa mentions,
Yeah,
totally
yeah,
appropriate. It's so that was interesting. But I've been wanting to ask you that how you came up with your name.
yeah.
I find
It,
names to be just annoying now.
yeah, yeah. The but that was my methodology in putting it together. I researched a lot of the books in the genre, whether Lee Child or a number of the other thriller authors,
Hmm.
and their main characters and the titles of their books. Those are critical, because I learned that first with my first book, and the title of "It's Not Enough to Just Exist," which is a philosophical slant on why I wrote the book, which is fiction. But that's not a great title. Actually, that title is extremely poor, and it's not just poor; it sucks, because it doesn't target a post-apocalyptic readership. So because they're not getting in touch with their feelings; they're just trying to survive. So, but there's more to survival than just surviving. Yeah, well, change it to End Times Alaska, and we'll be able to sell it. So that's what it is. But one thing I found out just recently is the Free Trader. As I've been ramping up my ads, my Free Trader series. That's cool. Well, free in the title. Holy crap! I get a ton of people clicking, searching for free. So I actually had to make a negative keyword for free on my Free Trader ads, because Free Trader isn't free. Buy that bitch. Come on.
Unless you're in Kindle Unlimited, in which case read the crap out of it.
Yeah, read the hell out of this. Yeah. Oh my God. So anyway, I went with the Hawaii shirt that I actually bought in Hawaii. I bought it in Honolulu last year.
I think it's interesting, though. I was like, okay, so right now it's relatively, green out there in Alaska or up there in Alaska. I was just wondering if you're trying to hide from anybody up there. It looked more
no.
camouflagey than Hawaiian to me.
Yes, well, it's Harley Davidson, and I bought it in the military, the PX, there at the Halikoa, the military shop.
All right. Just kind of curious about that.
So that it's like, hey, a little bit of everything. It's Harley Davidson, it's military, it's I bought it in the PX. So here we go. I went with this today. I'm going to put on a sweatshirt to go downtown. It's 51 degrees outside, so a little bit nipply.
I think it's going to, I'm being told, I haven't looked at what the temperature is, but here in the Las Vegas Henderson area, it should be somewhere in the 108, 112 degree, I think. You know what? I'll just look at that while we're, Las Vegas and hell, which is cooler. That's not how you spell today, by the way. Just it's presently 95. We'll get it to a high of 112 today.
Get the hell out of here. Get out of town. Bag your face.
Yeah, well, I grew up in Houston, so it was humid, so it didn't matter if it was only 97 degrees. It was still miserable. But I would have to say that those individuals who stipulate that, dry heat definitely is better is bullshit at 112. It's not better because, you have all the concrete and everything else that just soaks it up and radiates it. So anyway, there we go.
Oh, Middle East. Yeah, I was sent to Kuwait only for a month, but it was July. It was freaking July in Kuwait. Oh my God, talk about a dry heat. Well, so was a blow dryer in your face, because there was this constant wind and it was hot as hell and dry, and it sucked every bit of moisture out of your body. So that dry heat thing, yeah, it's grossly overrated.
Someone, Vinny asked, have you ever started writing a chapter and start plagiarizing something you have already written in another book? I don't know so much the exact same words, but certainly maybe some concepts. And I had to be pretty careful about that, especially back in the beginning, when you have the success of a particular, set of series, and you want the success again, and then you start thinking, wait a minute, if I write something too vastly different, the fans aren't going to like that. And then I found it to be a challenging tightrope to try to create something new and yet compelling to hit the emotional high points of what people resonated with.
I think that's a good point. I take concepts and stuff. I take character traits and make them kind of similar across all my books, but that's kind of the theme, and that's also kind of me, the way I write. You'll see that again, some of that again in the Ian Bragg and the Operator, coming this winter. I think I'll publish between Thanksgiving and New Year's. So crazy. It's done right now. It's I could publish this thing in a week or two, and now I'm going to sit on it until November, December.
So why are you doing that?
As a phased rollout, I need some. I want some high level testimonials And I just reread the whole book. I think it is the best thing I've ever written in regards to flow, in regards to word choice, in regards to all of it, the story, the triple slant, or the triple twists that go into it. And so I'll be sending it to a number of people to ask them if you could read this and maybe give me a comment if you like it. I'm also working to make sure that the audio is ready for a simultaneous release. I'll release the paperback and hardback when they're ready, paperback through KDP print, and then do not go expanded distribution to a second paperback through Ingram, with expanded distribution, as well as the hardback through Ingram. So I want all of this live at the same time. So I'll just be waiting until the audiobook looks like it's going to go live, and then I'll pitch the ebook and make that go. And
So
I'll
let me
put,
ask you.
yeah.
You bring up a very interesting point, and I think you and I are at the stages of our careers and our businesses as we move forward. How much of what we used to just question as brand new, wet behind the ears indies about how trad did their business, and that you now realize, holy crap, there was a reason for this.
Now, one thing that we don't struggle with that I know trad did was their editing process and rewriting process. Because right now, I finished it today. I finished my rewrite. It's a good book, but I would send it to trad. I would send it to them, and they would sit on it for a month or two while their editor of choice then got to it, and then they would kick it back with their comments. And so that process is extended. So this is why it greatly extends. But one thing that they do is they do the offset printing, so they're printing pallets of these books. So it really has to be final. Unlike the glory of being an indie EPUB publisher, which is like, oh, hey, shit, there's a typo. You fix it and then re-upload. Who cares? So only the first bunch of people see that, or the next bunch. And then you just clean them up over time. And all of a sudden, hey, somebody looks 5 years later and, hey, that's a perfect book. There's no typos. Well, yeah. It just happens that way.
Some of the additional things that I'm thinking about, like you had mentioned the audio. You really can't do the audio until you have the book locked. And audio is not going to happen in a week. And so I see there's some additional things. And for instance, advertising, even on the indie side, our newsletter advertising now, some of them that you might want to get into could be anywhere from 2 to 5 months, fairly blocked up.
Yeah.
And so the people that you have on your teams, they need to get on track. You might want to get some of your marketing people to go do some A/B testing, on the sly, and try to figure out which are the better resonating images. And you can do some of these things, and then you might want to make sure your street team is on track. I mean, all of these things take time. And while you can compress it a little bit, depending on how many people, how well oiled, yada, yada, if you're just you, that's going to take time. And so there are a lot of good reasons to be considering, even though you have something finished on Monday, not putting it out on Friday.
Yeah, 5 months. I'm giving myself 5 months to make sure it's final to start making the paperbacks. And the narrator, I have him locked for October.
Who are you going to use, if you can
I'm
share?
going to use. I asked one person for a sample, and it just didn't grip me. And looking at how I read the book to myself, I read it in Chris Abernathy's voice.
Okay.
So now that Chris has done a lot of my books, I did ask about R.C. Bray, but I'm not sure his voice will work. And also, he's not available for at least a year, I think. So it's like, no, I'm not going to. I want to publish it simultaneously, so I'm not going to sit on it for a year waiting on somebody else.
Are you going to have additional books done, or are you going to do one and wait?
No, I'll write the second book probably September-ish. And have that ready for a month release, because in the ebook I'm going to have the link, and in the hardback paperback, when I go final with those, I will also have that link to the pre-order of the second book.
Okay. And then are you looking at any I'm just going through some of the different ways that you can do marketing for your first book, and I'm using your first book in the new series as one of the ways to do it, because typically what we espouse here is, if you're going to do either rapid release or large series, is you focus a lot on that book one. So Craig is going through, he's connecting with people, he's trying to see what great blurbs he can get from well-known authors in this genre. And those quotes are going to
Yeah.
last him for years on this.
Yeah.
I mean, it really is, it takes longer, book one, but following right behind it, he's going to be writing book two while he's doing all of this prep. So he hasn't left us totally for the dark side, which has milk and cookies, but he's in fact actually making a very um, well thought out plan. And even on the indie side, it can take time to do this.
Well, and I bought 3 covers out of the gate for the first 3 books in the series, so I had to plot out the second and third books.
Hmm.
These are Stuart Batch covers, and
And Stuart
so
Batch is, for those
Stuart,
that don't know.
he does. Oh my God, he does a lot of the heavy hitters. Besides Mark Dawson, he does all
Hmm.
his covers, but he does a number of trad pub covers too in the thriller genre. He is probably the leading a cover designer in the thriller genre.
And he was nice enough to come and speak at Edinburgh.
He did, and was extremely kind and cordial, and
Hmm.
took time out of his, because he was on vacation up in Edinburgh with his family, so he took time away from them to come over and speak to us for an hour or two, and it was very nice for him to do that.
Yeah, a lot of education on that. I remember Judith making a comment about how she really got a lot out of the cover talks related to that as well. And then also, someone had mentioned Chris has a great voice. And by the way, if you don't put your name in, then Facebook users always see.
Yeah,
So we don't know who you are. So the person who had mentioned Chris has a
it
great
shows to
voice.
us like this. Yeah,
Yeah, exactly. But I just want to mention, I think, did you help get him started?
yeah,
Is okay.
yeah.
Yeah, so this
He,
was
he
years ago.
narrated he narrated my End Times Alaska series when
Hmm.
he was just getting into the business, even though he had been on radio for like 25 years. So Chris was very well established and had a good voice and was able to speak clearly and did the microphone and the sound booth thing before. And he had done voiceovers for video, I believe, and then started getting in. But one thing that he improved over time, because I know he narrated some of your books, the Dark Sides series,
Hmm.
the second Dark Ages. That's it. You're already on the dark side, but the but he narrated that and then some post production problems. But since then, he has vastly improved those processes, and I have to say that I really like his voice. I really like what he does, and he's very quick. He reads it. He gives them different voices. He makes it homey, where you just listen and you're good. And I have to say the narrator that Tantor has given me for a few of my series,
Hmm.
Gabriel Vaughn,
Hmm.
he does an exceptional job. So I'm quite pleased with the work he's done on my stuff for Tantor.
Yeah, it's interesting. We had a dinner for the audio people in New York. This is a couple years ago at the Audis, and Stephen Campbell pulled it together, got it going. Judith worked it, and Chris is there. Now, if you only listen to Chris on audio, then you have no idea that his natural accent is a very Southern American accent. I mean, what, like Alabaman or something?
Yeah, Alabama. And he's from Scotland, or his parents are from.
Yeah,
His dad's
yeah,
from Scotland. Scottish, very Scottish. It's
yeah.
crazy.
It's amazing what the professionals can do with their voices, and just hats off. And he's such a great guy.
Yeah,
So,
yeah. He's a pleasure to work with. So when I asked him, and he said, and I sent him the first few chapters, and he said, "I love this. I really want to get into thrillers, and this looks like it'd be a great start." So now that I'm done, especially after I reread it, of course it's going to sell for crap because I like it. So that's
stop talking about yourself that way. We're gonna have okay, everybody listening, and those that are listening afterwards. We're gonna have one of those. It's not you, Craig.
it's not,
You're a good guy. It's not the inner voice of yours that everyone says my writing is horrible. It's like you finish a good book, and the question it. But you know what? All right. So all joking aside, mostly joking aside, let's talk about that for a minute because if you like a certain set of books as a reader, I'm speaking to those that are readers first,
yeah,
which is how I am, which is how you are. I do recognize that a lot of people are using 20 books to 50K as a way to create a business and a model for business without actually being readers so much. or if they are, they're very minor readers. They're looking at business. That's fantastic. It's another way of doing it. But I'm speaking specifically to those who read a lot and find out what you like. If you create stories that you love to read, which is how I did it with Arthurian Gambit, I love these stories, then you are naturally, a few steps ahead on your marketing plan because now you are your perfect target market.
Hmm.
And just, create ads and everything that appeal to you and then learn, get better, as Craig is always talking about. There's always a way to write a better sentence, to write a better paragraph, to create a better first page, move forward with that. But it really is a situation where I was able to market because I am the person who I was trying to get out there. And it just so happened that similar to Eminem, there was an army marching behind me related to wanting this style of book that wasn't really out there yet.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And that's I've benefited from that as well. I market to me, and no, not veterans, but people who appreciate the military and what they bring and what they do, and that sense of honor and justice. And yes, I put it into my books. It's real because I mean I lived it for over 20 years, and I think that dynamic helps immensely in what
Hmm.
is in my books with the military science fiction and the space opera, because it's always about the people. I was in the military in the Marine Corps, but I was intelligence. So intelligence,
Intelligence meaning.
you're always watching actions. Yes, what is their intent, and you balance that against what's their capabilities. So yes, Saddam wanted to take over the world, but he had zero capability of doing that. So all he did was piss off people at local level. Local being relative. I mean, if you lived in Kuwait, yeah, it sucked to be right next to Iraq, but it's taking those elements and bringing that. And like, what do you do if you have to sleep overnight? You're in Kuwait in a foxhole. It's 125 degrees in the
Hmm.
sunlight. Sun sets, and it gets all the way down to 120, and you got to sleep because you're on duty next day. So it's those kinds of elements of reality. So I put that in my books, and I think it sells well. It seems to sell well. I get good reviews on that part of it. But the Ian Bragg thriller, that one, wrote that. We'll have the narrator, get it done, and hopefully we'll be, if we get it the audio done and approved by the end of October,
Hmm.
it'll be sometime into December that it will definitely be live, and that's when we'll set up a pre-order probably as soon as we have an idea on the audio part, and then start pushing it hard, a full price pre-order to get those front loaded and see where we are. And then, of course, get that pre-order 2 months out so we get the ASIN so we can start locking our time with paid newsletters and promotions, because it's what you got to do.
And so, are you working with another company on this, or are you pushing it through
Now, this is
Craig
me,
Martelle Inc.?
Craig Martelle Inc. Yeah, no, I this is me. Going to put it out there, and I've got my Rick Bannock thriller. That one very well received. Just didn't it just never sold very well. And I'm going to put that one on 99-cent sale in October to generate interest. Once it goes to brand, once again, me as a thriller author. Hey, okay,
Hmm.
hey, I like this book. There's not a Rick Bannock 2, but there's this new series coming out, and there's already 2 books written. And that's one part of the marketing is second book is done and coming soon.
Hmm. And so, why or why not would you use the Rick Bannock as a way to acquire emails?
For thriller, a little bit separation between that and my usual science fiction,
No,
but
no, but
I'm
Ian
think
Bragg. In other words, to use that as a way to move forward, just make it wide. And I'm just postulating and asking at the moment. But why would you consider or not consider pulling it from KU? I don't perceive that there's a lot of money lost, but then using it as a way to acquire something that you would have to pay for otherwise through marketing and get emails in that genre.
that we talk a lot about reader magnets.
Hmm.
And so Rick Bannock would become my reader magnet. It's not Ian Bragg, but it's the similar style, the similar approach, the similar character in how they approach dealing with evil in the world,
Hmm.
or bad guys in various ways. So bringing them into that style and uh, uh, that part of what I write, that's what I'll use it as reader magnet. I mean, Yeah, I could go in and change the name, but that's not going to work. It's Rick Bannock. It's a different thriller series,
Hmm.
and that gives people insight into me, and hopefully brings them on board as thriller ready to buy, because you can't beat a pre-established audience for a new book. And this is something that we benefit from with long series. Hey, you release the newest book in the series, all the people from who went before, hopefully they pick up the new book as well, and you get that nice surge of sales, and you get that nice revenue boost for the month,
Hmm.
and all the good things that come with returning readers. And that's, as you get more and more established, your pyramid base gets higher and higher. So that's what I want to do with Rick Bannock. I want to start building that pyramid base for Ian Bragg. And one thing Ian Bragg will bring is once again, hopefully, a lot of hopefullys here, but I'm hedging my bet, because I do know a lot of people, and also this is a good book. I'm not going to foist it on somebody and say, hey, read my thing. I think it's good, and that's, now it's better than that. And I've been in the business long enough now, all nearly 5 years worth to
Well, that's a long time in indies. I mean, I realize we do go back 10 years for indies, but I've noticed, and Craig, you can speak to this as well, but it does seem like we go through a typical 2 to 3 year before, people obviously drop off at 6 months and 12, but it seems to be 2 to 3 years before they just burn out because indie is so hard to keep that momentum going.
yeah.
And or they run into another series, that series doesn't do as well, or for family reasons they need to drop because it takes a lot of time, effort, and motivation to keep going if you were the sole person pushing your company forward. Otherwise, you
Yeah.
get things where the company gets bigger, perhaps the spouse gets involved or others, or they understand how to start getting VAs and open up their thought process to actually investing in VAs as a way to get part of your life back.
Yeah, I completely agree. The time frame for burnout, it is different with indies, and really all it takes is one person, one book that's bad, especially if you're taking if it takes you a year to write a book, which is perfectly fine. We cast no aspersions anywhere. You take a year, and all of a sudden it doesn't sell. Your first book did okay, and you're hoping that second book would boost the series, and now the second book doesn't sell, and you struggle. You write that third book, it doesn't sell, and now it's easy to say, I guess this isn't the career for me, as opposed to going back to that first book and saying, why aren't people reading this? Or what is my marketing campaign? What is my readership? And what do I need to do to leverage it? Like you're talking about with your books, I know me, this is the kind of book I like. So
Hmm.
how can I market to me, and what kind of tendrils, as you live your life, you're looking at, I can find me here, I can find me in this area, so let me start those ad campaigns. And then you built up your readership fairly quickly because it was a compelling story too. So hey, good story, bunch of people look like me, come on, let's go for a ride. And they came on board. So that's not as common as we would like it to be, because there's a lot of competition out there. So how do you find people like you? So you start with people like you, and you go find them, whatever that takes, and you keep writing to have those backstories. Because my biggest seller today, if I went on to Book Report, I'd see my biggest seller today was a book I wrote 4.5 years ago. That series is still cranking.
Yeah, yeah. And that's one of the things that's really cool because, as a person who followed business, that's what really interested me through a lot of my life. I, read a lot of things, so I'm aware that one of the best ways to do business is to make money by the time you wake up. You don't physically want to be there because then you're constrained like a consultant to the amount of hours you can work and put into it. You don't, there's a whole lot of things you don't want to do, but if you have a product that will, make itself sell itself, there you go. Now you start looking at the manufacturing cost, right? You start looking at whether or not it's going to take you $10 of materials in order to apply another $5 of labor to get a $15 cost of a widget. And now you're going to have to add 20%. So let's say it's $18 with some advertising per widget. And you start looking at everything else, and you realize that what business we're in is amazing. We have one of the lowest cost of overheads. It requires your intellect, which can feel very painful, as I've now remembered over and over again for the last 6 weeks, as I did brand new beat ones. and realized just how agonizing emotionally what it takes out of you. And Craig's been the one that when I called whining, as a person used the term earlier, it's like, oh, I feel so horrible. My brain is mush. Craig's over there really consoling. Get with it, bitch.
So, yeah. That's why he calls me. He needs that little bit of Marineism dropped on him. But also we talk about time off. What are we doing? And unfortunately, that's not freaking Judas Priest, as I
Yeah,
found out
no,
yesterday.
yeah. So yeah. But instead of trying to get the money back, we're like, screw that. We want the seats. We're keeping the seats. Keep my money. I want to see Judas Priest. Craig wants to see Judas
I
Priest.
want to
So
see Judas Priest. Hell yeah! Even if they
yeah,
are a year older and another year in debt, this is Judas Priest, man.
yeah. It's like, come on. Uh, he still has a hell of a voice. I mean, oh my goodness, his age.
Yeah.
I saw David Coverdale one time with Whitesnake before. This has got to be 12 years ago, right before we left the Houston area. I can't even remember what year that is. And his voice was shot at that time. I think he was just now coming back at that moment. So he
Yeah.
might have, gotten back into the groove, but it was pretty shot at that moment. Still of the Night just doesn't quite have it when he can't do that
Oh, geez.
one note.
That requires some incredible
So how in the world do
vocal
you
range.
pronounce the guy's name? Because I've watched the videos before. Then you sent me the one that I went and watched again. But it's
Oh, Leo. I don't know how to
Leo.
pronounce it. Yeah. Leo Maracioni or something like that.
I don't know,
The
but that guy's
Jelly. Yeah.
fantastic.
I love his stuff. I love how he
Hmm.
approaches it, and the fact that on one track he even played the trumpet, and it was him playing it. I mean, the videos is there's no cutting where somebody else's fingers. No, this was him
Hmm.
playing the trumpet, and well, in
Hmm.
addition to the bass and the 8 string. I thought he had an 8 string guitar, and then also plays the drums and has
And
six
sings.
string
And sings.
and he
Yeah.
sings. What and he sounds like Barry Kripke from his regular voice. He has a
Hmm.
speech impediment, so he sounds like Barry Kripke from Big Bang Theory when
Oh, I
he's just
didn't.
talking.
Hmm.
Yeah, yeah. It's like, oh my god, and you see, well, that maybe that's why he screams when he sings. So it's good. It's a good metal voice.
Yeah, it's a fantastic metal voice, and I love what he's done with his beard. The little top knot looking thing. But he's just got such great. I mean, he's very charismatic.
Yeah,
So this is the Craig and Michael show where we go off and talk about metal,
yeah.
which
Of
I didn't
course,
realize. How long did we know each other before the first 20 books event? And you start playing metal, and I'm like, how in the hell did I not know we shared a love of metal?
it was like a year and a half before we jammed because you're like, hey, where'd you get this metal? I'm like, that's my phone, man. That's my
Yeah,
phone.
I did. I was like, "What's going on?" I couldn't believe it was you. For the people that are asking, I have to admit that in the last month or so, I have been given advice from people that I trust that I need to get my shit together and not drink as much Coke as being one of the big things. So I've really dropped off of Coke as much as I can, which is not all. So I can't admit that I went cold turkey. I went kind of like lukewarm turkey. But yeah, I've got to reduce the sugar and the carbs and the well, yeah, I didn't get rid of the caffeine. I just went to tea, which, being a Southern boy, I can switch over to just regular tea, no problem. But
Yeah.
yeah, I did. And one thing that one thing that happened a week ago, so on July 4th, my wife is Latino in the background. So you would think that she would be fine with the smell of chili powder. The answer tends to be no, she isn't. And so, cooking chili is not really an easy thing to do. And so for July 4th, she's know I've been jonesing to do chili, and we have a place where we could do some. And so Mike Bray came over because he also likes chili, and then he brings out. I asked him, "Hey, I need you to get some Coke. I need you to get this and get that." Apparently, he took Coke to mean soda pop, and then he pulls out a 6 pack of Pepsi, and I'm looking at him thinking, because he's a practical joker, and I'm looking at him thinking, did you do this shit on purpose? Did you bring Pepsi? And he's like, no, don't you like Pepsi? Well, it was one of the two. And I'm like, no, there's no one of the two. I texted Coke. I would have texted Pepsi had I wanted that. But anyway, yeah, I rapidly or substantially reduced my soda pop intake last few weeks.
And I'm drinking decaf because my cardiologist said that's about enough caffeine for you for the rest of your life. So yeah. So I have
Oh,
like
Krista.
1.5 to 2 cups a day, and then the rest is decaf or water. Yeah, no soda at all. No soda of any type. So that's where we are. I'm consistently at about 195 pounds. I got down to 191.4 on one weigh-in, and then I climbed back up to 193 doing the same thing. And I'm like, what the hell? And now because of the mosquitoes outside, I'm not spending as much time outside. So I did indeed. I bought a treadmill.
Did you
So
really?
I did. It's a hands-free one. It's pretty much just sits on the floor. It folds up. It's about 60 pounds, but it folds up and stays flat, and it's regulated by where you stand on it. So
are you going to go standing, walking
I'm not going to do a
type?
standing. No, I can't do that. I got a lounge, but I'll do it to get some miles and burn some calories, because I think that's my biggest challenge right now is burning enough calories. And I'm not eating bad stuff. I haven't had pizza in forever because I put it at 188 to get
Pizza is not bad stuff. Let's have this bullshit right now.
Oh yeah,
Pizza
thin
is
crust.
high quality crust. The sauce is all tomato, which is very natural. And then we have, cured
Very
pork.
natural. So is weed, man. Weed's natural too. And MSG, monosodium glutamate. That's
Okay, that shit messes me up. The MSG, I
it's
didn't realize
natural.
this. Well, okay, yeah. So is what cyanide? I mean, come on. Let's not use this to go too far here. But MSG one time, we went to a great Chinese food place, and I'm in my 20s, early 30s. And at the time, I was a professional, I was a programmer. And so the whole group of us go to this Chinese food place. I noticed the MSG. The food is fantastic. We come back, and I realize I can't concentrate for like 2 to 3 hours. I'm looking at some very simple code, and it's something I should be able to track easily. And then finally, after doing this 2 or 3 times, I finally come to the conclusion MSG messes my brain up, and I can't focus. Worth a damn.
It
So
wasn't the fact that you probably ate like 7,000 calories in one meal.
no, not in this case. I mean, come on, it's
I've
rice.
eaten with you, Michael.
Hey, we were at Ping Pong Pong the other day, and
Of course you
so
were. Rub
of
that in.
course I am. Now that you bring that up, you bastard.
Oh
But
goodness.
yeah, so we brought it back. Didn't eat it all. Brought back a
Good.
healthy amount. Had it over the next couple of days. So,
And I'm hungry for that.
oh, it's
I'm
so
hungry
good.
for that.
It's so good. One of the reasons you might have went down to 191.4 or whatever is because the mosquitoes just suck the blood out of you. Nothing like
That's
losing half a gallon of blood to drop your weight.
that's my cardiologist actually cleared me, even though I'm on blood pressure medication and stuff like that. Actually cleared me to go give blood again.
Oh yeah.
And they are hurting bad for my choice O neg CMV negative blood. So I do have to bite the
So the
bullet and go back in there and get stabbed and donate half a gallon or whatever they try to milk out of me.
Yeah, we don't actually want Martell to live longer for him. We want Martell to live longer so he'll keep producing this O negative blood.
Yeah, yeah. So
Did you ever hear I can't remember if it's negative, positive, or what it is, but there is, I love tinfoil stuff. So let's just put that shit out there. My brain gravitates to it like it's candy. And so there was a premise that a certain blood type didn't exist until a certain moment in time that it's aliens, of course. But that, it could have been Atlantean or whatever, trying to track down where did this blood type come from? And so there's something to do with that. And go check
yeah,
it out, that stuff, because it was fascinating. And you could be it, Craig. Total alien.
I could be negative. Yeah, I think I read that it was the RH negative. Yeah, that was considered alien of sorts. But hell, I like it. Works for me. So, but here we are. We're talking about character development. I don't know what are we talking about?
I don't
Self-publishing.
know.
Oh, it was my release strategy for
Yes.
my thriller, and the reason I'm releasing it farther out instead of launching it right away is, yes, I wanted simultaneous audio release, but I also wanted to build that readership ahead of time. And to do that, I don't have the thriller readership. I think this story will that my science fiction readers will like it, but the bigger thriller audience, getting that getting established and getting some reviews via paperbacks that will fleet over to the ebook when that goes live. So I'll have the paperbacks and the hardbacks. They'll be done probably in October, and for sale. So then I can start sending some of those out to some pre-readers, as well as just a book funnel link to get. I know I'm the guy who says I don't do arcs. Well, in this one, yeah, I guess I am. and this is pulling out all stops. Now with my science fiction, established readership, I know here's what I don't need to do arcs. Here, just buy the book or borrow it in KU, which is the majority of my readers, and read it, leave a review, even if it says it's not purchased. Then it's still okay. It's still there, still good. And I know we don't talk about reviews and 20 books to 50K. That's because the conversations degenerate. And one thing we don't want to do is ever go after readers. And I posted a 1-star review that was one of those. There shouldn't be swearing, and it was on Nomad Found. I mean, come on now, you should have figured that out in the first page probably. But no, I don't think I actually swore until like the 3rd page. But that's how long she lasted. And
well, what people don't know is that you really were kind of basing on no swearing before. I was like, I don't know that's going to work too well, Craig.
Yeah, I hadn't written a swearing book before then. I had already written a dozen books by the time I wrote Terry Henry Walton, and I didn't swear in those. And then you're like, the readership, they kind of like it. And so I started doing some things. I'm like, no, they don't kind of. They really like it. So let me do that. So $500,000 in sales can't be wrong. Oh goodness!
Well, I mean, come on. That's the thing, is that I happen to find swearing really funny, right? I come from a very religious sort of background, but I still find it hilariously. And so one of the things that was bugging me, of course, there are individuals who also, their own opinion, don't like it. And I'm like, yeah, I'm doing it anyway, because I don't want to go to a buffet that's with no spice. You either like it or you don't. But let's get off the horse here.
Yeah.
And so I was like, all in, all in on that thing.
But one thing we held back from is like casual swearing in the narrative, like just where you're describing something or your paragraph or you're describing a scene, and just throwing swearing in there. And I know a lot of authors who do that, and I don't like reading that. That doesn't add to the value and the flavor of, like, when you're describing something, or sometimes in an internal monologue. Yeah, you do it, because I swear a lot in my internal monologue. But day to day, no, I don't. I mean, I don't say words like butthole out in public, or while on video, because I don't ever want anybody to hear me say butthole, or, I mean, worse, boner. I mean, my God, can you imagine somebody saying that and having a video of it, of you saying that? Jeez. Boner.
Oh, okay. So question. Amazon found a couple of errors in our book. Fixed it. How long should it take for them to check it over and get it approved, Craig?
There's more to this question than just that. Because if they gave you a quality alert, you can fix it, and the book never gets blocked out where it's not available. Now, if you've got one of those where they pulled the book because of questions, well, then it's the typical 1 to 5 days. I think they give you, when they send it, like when they send a copyright question. Hey, we just want to verify that you are the owner of this material. That's 5 days that you've got to give them. And then after that, unless it's 72 hours, whatever they say in their notice, and then you give them that time, and then you start following up a lot. Like it took 5 days for one of my books. It got held up by copyright because it was published in a different anthology. I had my release letter, and they sent the notice, and I'm like, oh my God. So I immediately sent it within like 5 minutes. I sent them, hey, here's the release letter. And 5 days later, they hadn't published it yet. And this is the old days when they used to say, well, if you're publishing copyrighted material, we're going to pull your whole account. We're going to do these evil things to you. You'll never be back on Amazon again. And 5 days later, I still hadn't seen anything. I'm like, my God, I got half my publishing empire right here. So I sent a note to Jeff Bezos. I'm like, hey, I've been threatened. And I copied that language in, and I said, I responded in 5 minutes, and I haven't gotten anything back saying that, oh, hey, sorry, we just wanted you to provide. I provided it, and still this guillotine is hanging over my head. And now the newest alerts, there's no threats in there. which I noticed, and thank goodness, well done, Amazon, in fixing your approach to dealing with authors, because it just comes in, hey, we just have here's ways you can do it, here's what we don't want to see, and thank you. And so I sent one. The last one took me, I think, 6 days before they published a short story, and I got a note back saying, hey, thank you, we got your documentation, we're reviewing it, where previously you didn't get anything back. So now you should have gotten something back saying we're reviewing your documentation and we'll get back to you. And if they don't give you a time frame, I think 5 business days is reasonable. After that, just start following up. My impression.
Okay.
What would you say, Michael? You've had a few of these.
Well, I haven't seen any of them that lately that have caused us a lot of issues. But I mean, it does. Your stomach just drops out. You don't know where the hell it goes. It just goes to the center of the earth, but it drops out when Amazon was giving you some of those um, emails not that long ago. Well, it felt like not that long ago. It's a couple years ago now. And I appreciate the fact that they've changed some of that. But I did. I mean, there were some times where they had done something. It wasn't our side. I got an email saying this is all screwed up. You know, you're losing everything. I just was asking around. It's one of the first times that I used 20 books to 50K for something I needed. And so it was, can somebody help me just, and I got a couple of private messages and went to Jeff. And Jeff, I mean, it doesn't go to Jeff necessarily. It goes to the EL something, one of the executive,
ERT, the executive reviews team or something like that.
yeah, or leadership committee, ELC, something like that. Anyway,
Yeah.
long story short, I got contacted really quickly from them. I explained my situation. I said, if it was my fault, I'd be all up, but we're both going to suffer because of this. I'm certainly going to suffer because all of my fans are going to do it. You're going to suffer because it's your customers mainly. And Amazon is all about making sure the customers are happy. So, don't always focus about you and your problems. Focus on what you jointly have, which are the customers in common whenever
Yeah.
you speak with them. So, um, do we as authors have any control of the quality of the Katie print? No, we actually don't. And yet, Craig, we gave a fair, in fact, I did it. I think it was based on Yin's too, who's in here. But I had some paperback books in last year at 20 books when there were a lot of people, KDP print. We brought that to their attention. They asked for examples. I went home, grabbed some, and brought them up and was able to just lay them on the table because we had, you know how you would do books 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 so that you could put them on the shelf and they would be in order. Well, you could see the quality of the letter, the stripe wasn't the same going across.
And it
And I
was a
don't.
exact same template on the artwork, and you knew that.
Yes, yes. So I mean, that's the best we can do is constantly just providing these things. Print on demand is unfortunately still a very I want to say it's not young, but it's not all that old, and they're going to have to be getting better. So COVID, because of that, people are not going to be doing quite as much offset print. They're going to be doing a lot more POD, and there are other things that are going on in the industry that are only going to be pushing POD harder, faster, stronger, and it's in a solid place. But they will have to figure out how to do it. I mean, if you see some of the POD for hardbacks that are out there right now, it's amazing the quality that they can do.
Yeah. I think the best thing we did was last year when KDP Print came to Vegas and said, "Bring your examples. We'll take pictures. We don't want to take them home with us, but we'll take pictures, and this is what we'll take back to our team." And they had a couple people, and they got a lot of feedback from people with twisted pages and crazy stuff going on with their books. So that's the best thing you can do with Amazon. And we that opportunity in Vegas was great, and people took advantage of it and presented. So you're swearing and constructive, creative cursing that comes in your Bethany Ann books. Jens, I think you need to give Jens some love here because of what you did to him while he was translating.
Well, hold on a second, because I think Jens knew what he's getting into with Arthurian Gambit. So that was yes, he did. He read it in English for freak's sakes. No, this is bullshit.
Take it like a man. I'm sorry. Yes,
No, I'm
dear.
not taking that. No,
Yes, dear. That's the right answer.
no. So at one moment, and I'll turn this around. If you want a series to be constrained, add cursing. And that's just from a marketing perspective, from a sales perspective, you will limit your market with cursing in your book, especially if you fling the F word like I did so frequently.
Like a
So,
monkey,
yeah,
throwing it out there. Yeah. Anyway,
yes, absolutely. So, because there's, YA is a great example of that's a genre that a lot of adults read. Why? Because in young adults, they understand that there's not going to be cursing and they're not going to have sex. And it is a filter for people who prefer these types of stories. And so I know, well, I knew later, I certainly didn't know it at the time, but I knew later that, if you want the biggest market, leave the cursing out. I, however, wanted it in and was okay with the, smaller market I received.
and
So
that's with
go ahead.
that understanding. I also Ian Bragg is PG/G. Yes, there's some violence in there. There's closed door sex, but it's no swearing, no f bombs, stuff like that.
Hmm.
And I think I might have said shit maybe 3 times in the whole book.
Hmm.
And the worst name I called somebody was, I think I used dickhead once. But that all of that in dialogue.
Hmm. Yes. Yeah. Going through there. So there are just a lot of things that we can do. Where do you see the market going, just if you had to say, next 90 to 180 days, Craig?
Oh, the rest of this year is going to be ebooks. Ebooks will dominate, ebooks and audio.
Hmm.
I know audio took a dip when people weren't commuting, but as people start to commute again, uh, and they will, the country is generally not going to close back down in entirety like we did before. Uh, so you'll start picking those commuters back up. So ebook and audio, people are going to be reading for entertainment, because no new shows this fall. Keep in mind, because they didn't film anything in the spring because of COVID-19. So no new shows in the fall. What does that mean? It means, hey, read for entertainment, and this is where we leverage in. Hey, you want to be entertained? You like Firefly? You like Star Trek? You like the Man from Uncle, showing people's age? Then hey, there's a book series. Sit back, enjoy. On
Hmm.
Kindle, get a Kindle Unlimited subscription for $10 a month, and
Oh, we
read
could
all
make
you
it a
can read.
prescription as well. Would you like to have a better life? We prescribe Kindle Unlimited and our books.
And my books, I mean our books. Yes, that's what I meant.
So, but yeah, so we're back here. We're post July 4th. July usually historically for LMBPN has been a very strong month. And I would say we're probably not, it doesn't feel right now like we're to the sales level we were last year. You know, we're solid. There's nothing wrong with July, but it's not feeling that. And I don't know. I mean, we're in a political year, which for some companies, that is a big deal because a lot of their age demographics, if you're having older readers, they're going to be very focused on, people worrying about who's president and everything else. So we're just in some tumultuous times, which is going to be a negative to some.
Yeah,
People's focus are going to be differently, and there's going to be a positive in others who are quite frankly tired of that. They're just like, just get me out of here, just beam me up. And
yep,
so, don't stress it too much. Just keep pushing forward.
yeah. That's last year July sucked for me really bad, and this year it started off really low, but it's picking up nicely. We re-wickered the ads, and that has changed the dynamic. Lowered cost, better engagement, more purchases. So thank goodness that's coming around. We've got a couple releases of complete box sets, 2 complete box sets. One released, a couple days ago, and
Hmm.
then I'll release another one. I just published it this morning. So besides finishing Ian Bragg, the rewrite and sending it to my beta team, I published a book. So,
You
so
mean
took care
that?
of that. I've got another one that I'll publish as soon as my editor gives me an idea when she'll be done with it. But she's already started it, so I'm thinking another day or two is all, and
Yeah.
then we'll do a 2 week pre-order and get that rolling, get the paperback started and those good things, because we've got all that stuff done, and it's hard to beat that front loading that stuff. But November 4 years ago, October, my sales took a big dive, and November was just horrendous for me for sales perspective. December it started picking up again, and January was good. But yeah, 4 years ago. So keep in mind, October, November. You're only gonna hear screeching. You're only gonna hear yelling. You're gonna get pummeled by ads, even though Facebook, I saw them come out yesterday that they're going to not have political ads. Thank God.
Oh,
That
really?
just yeah, they said but they waffle because the almighty dollar drives Facebook. Keep that in mind. If you don't
Mm-hmm.
pay anything, you are the product. So uh, if people are willing to pay big money to run political ads past you, then I think Facebook will probably take it. So they're saying that right now. Just wait and see. Hopefully it doesn't, but then still you'll have the shrill of the shriekers in there screaming about this or that candidate, and it's going to affect sales because when people are mad, they don't want to sit down and read a book. So our job as indie authors for the 41,000 people in 20 books 50K is tell people to calm the fuck down and read a good book.
Yeah, and just it's one of those things. It's on my heart for when I read the items in 20 books. When someone says, I think I've read a good book, but then I have this constant persnickety voice in my head that says it's crap, it's this, it's that. I don't know how many days between when you say the end and you pick it back up to read it again. There's so many different opinions on that. But for me, when I did it the very first time, it was almost a year because it happened to be, I started writing, then my wife came home from being overseas for 11 days, and then I kind of forgot about it, stuck in the digital drawer. The next year, she went back to the same thing, and I pulled it back out, and I was like, where does it go? You know, I can tell that obviously much quicker now. It doesn't take a year for me to do that. It's just that's how it happened. And
Yeah,
so if you love it, that's enough. Now, mind you, if you happen to love something very esoteric, very rare, you will have a much more difficult time finding the people like you. That's fine. You can always lean one way or the other, or just figure out how to market it better. I mean, my Criterion Gambit is a genre mashup. Everyone at the time when I was coming out was like, "Oh, you need to be in a genre." No, no. And I think one of the guys who was in the superheroes, I wish I could remember his name, but he said it best. He goes, "You can have a genre mashup, just market it to one genre. Just
yeah,
choose a genre, and then market that aspect of the series to that." And that's what
yes.
I had been doing.
The and I have the genre equals marketing. So these people who talk about mashups and hey, it's all these. How do I pick the one with the biggest group of readers who are most likely uh, uh, to like your book? So pick the biggest one, and that's I market all my stuff to either space opera or military sci-fi because those are huge genres and they have enough readership to keep the book sales flowing as long as I keep the book in front of them and they like what they read. So it's all it's even though I'm like, well, I got vampires in it and I've got werewolves, but they're in space and space opera. We're targeting space, and
Hmm.
it works. It works.
And to answer Justin's question right here, for me personally, I'm assuming what you're talking about is post-election here versus just the opportune. When people start getting into Christmas, that's what they focus on. So if you happen to have Christmas books, I've been told that works very well. I happen not to have any of those, but we do have a person in the company that does really well with her Christmas stuff. And I can say that historically, we have killed it between Christmas and New Year's. Just killed it because a lot of people are getting their stuff. They're at home. Christmas is over. They just want to read. And, we've had some fantastic week to 2 weeks after Christmas.
Oh, and that's yeah. I set up. We have pre-orders now for 3 different complete series, and I think that will take all of the series that I've completed. That they will then be available in as complete series, and we're publishing those the week before Christmas, and then we're putting them on sale immediately after Christmas.
One thing that we don't talk a lot about is the fact that trying to remember that Amazon, supports your books. If you do pre-orders, they're going to announce your pre-order anywhere from 1 to 6 weeks after you set it up as a pre-order, and then they will also mention it the day that it releases. So give your pre-orders at least 6 weeks, and if you're doing it around that time, possibly a little bit more, just because Amazon is so busy. They shut things down. They don't allow their servers to be updated, as I've been told on a plane one time by someone who was high up. They had since moved on to a consulting like McKinsey or someone, but they said, they shut everything. They lock it down. They don't allow changes. You pretty much have to be Jeff Bezos. And he said he happened to be responsible one time, and to not allow this to happen. Of course, the story goes that Jeff wanted something. He basically went back and went no, and so everyone's like, "Wait a minute, you just, you know." And from what I remember the story, Jeff might have at least, but he understood. And then he appreciated the fact that this particular individual had the gumption to tell him no because of something Jeff wanted over here, and they were diametrically opposed. You can't change code on the server and then hope, that nothing goes wrong. Not when it's your biggest time of the year.
There are always issues every time they update. It affects the unintended consequences because there's so many different subroutines running and trying to work together and play nice. So, and you've seen that, like, hey, how did all my books disappear? The UK VAT issue, because they did that 6 months ahead of time. So Amazon was racing to catch up, and hey, they fixed it, and all of a sudden, everybody's books disappeared from the UK site or showed not available for sale. How about
Yeah.
that? So
Oh,
this is what happens. So that's why they roll things out very incrementally and slowly. So just understand during that time period, there's nothing new going to happen with Amazon. So you got your ads tuned. You can run them. You can add to them. You don't have to worry about something changing and moving you out of your comfort zone with your ads and stuff.
hey, Craig, before, it's getting to that time, don't want to keep people too long, but you remember when we went to Seattle a few years ago?
Went to
The
where?
Seattle to go
Yeah.
see Amazon.
Yeah.
So during that time, there was a lot of, I don't know what you would call it, but there was a lot of angst about people thinking that Amazon was going to shut it down, that Kindle Unlimited was going to go away, that they were going to change the percentages. And I don't know if that's still out there because I don't really pay attention to the social media stuff for the most part. So I don't have a good feel for that. But when we went there, it was Judith, you and myself, and we talked to them. And we said, "Hey, here are the concerns that we're hearing." And the group at that time was what, maybe 20,000 strong, 18, something like
Maybe.
that.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so at that time, they're like, no, look at all the things that we're doing. And at that time, we were under NDA, and they released and showed us something that which they have since brought out. And my understanding is that they're still in that same process. So if anyone is out there thinking that, oh my gosh, Amazon's going to change something, not that I've heard.
No, no. And that's the fact that they brought 14 people to Vegas last year and listen, hundreds of authors stopped by and talked to them to tell them, hey, here's what my concerns are, whether it was in Audible, whether it was in KDP, whether it was in the print, whether it was Goodreads, the myriad of services that Amazon provides. They got all of the feedback they could get, to include the person from the PR department.
Yeah,
Because we have
yeah.
20 Books to 50K has gotten some good press from Amazon, especially regarding the Vegas show. But I actually haven't been in touch with them lately in regards to, are they coming this year? I expect that they will not,
Yeah, I think
because they're risk
they're,
averse in that regard.
yeah, I mean, some of the people, one of the people that I occasionally contact told me recently that they're stuck in home for till sometime next year. I mean, that's the thing. We're not coming back this year to the
Yeah,
buildings
yeah.
whatsoever.
Kobo has already pulled out,
Hmm.
and I said we'd try to provide a an ability for them to present, like,
Hmm.
45 minutes, a presentation with a Q&A that we could put people in and just funnel them down on that Monday of Industry Day. And for those folks who are going to make it, I expect a D2D, whether Dan Wood or somebody, possibly not Mark,
Hmm.
because he would be coming from Canada, and we don't know about Canada yet. But we're still trying to get some industry folks to talk to you, to the folks who show up. I expect the show will have about 500 people, and that's okay. Even if it has 50, we're still okay.
Okay. I mean, I live here, so it's not like I'm going to have to go very far to show up.
Now we'll have people within driving distance. We might have some people be able to fly in. It's November. Things are going to change significantly between now and then, because if the numbers go the way they're going, hey, everybody will be infected by the end of July, for Christ's sake. And so
Yeah, so I'm just going through to make sure. Oops, I write in different genres. YA fantasy, historical romance, reverse harem romance, and rockstar romance. Well, there's a lot of romance there, so I don't know that that's actually so bad. I think that we've talked about this a few times. It's all about your marketing and whether or not, there are often indie writers who will use different pen names. That has its own benefits and detriments, so much more work. So it is challenging. Craig, I mean, you created multiple series with different genres in the beginning. How
Yeah.
was that?
It's when you're first starting out, I don't recommend it. And once you have an established audience, you can pretty much do what you want, but just understand that not everybody will come to your new stuff.
Yeah.
And that's why I'm so much intentionality behind the new thriller series, making sure that we get it out there. And in between, I will publish probably a couple science fiction books in between publishing Ian Bragg, because hey, bread and butter. I need to pay for these ads and things that I'm going to be doing in November and December. So not another Judge, Jury, and Executioner. Those are fun books. I enjoy writing them. I enjoy writing all my books. I mean, that's if it was work, I wouldn't do it. I'm retired. Keep in mind, I'm an old dude.
I'm sorry, dude, but you fail at retiring. Let me tell you, you suck at it horribly.
Yeah. So I hope there are more than 500 people, and I hope that we're able to mitigate the risks. People were able to come, have a good time, hear each other, share, network, do those things they need to do to move forward with their careers, because this is a career show. I think we call it the 20 books to 50K, a networking and educational event. We will record everything we can and share that with people who aren't able to come. And it's all good. And the challenge for those who do come is to make sure that we're giving the people at home the best that they can get. We're not judging anybody if they decide not to come. Perfectly fine. Hey, you got to do what's important, what's right for you.
That's what we want.
I'm going for the sole purpose of Michael will buy me Ping Pang Pong. I think Larry Martin said he's going to buy me a steak. I think Mike Bray said he was going to buy me a steak. So
those sounds like they might be rumor.
With people buying me steaks, of course I'm going to Vegas, even if I have to die, which I'm not going to die.
That's funny.
So there we are. The giant cookies. Yeah, that's like it's a prophylactic for COVID.
No, they're not, folks. I feel like I'm the sane one on this particular side of the conversation.
Yeah, you're the calm one.
Between you and Lawrence.
Lawrence loves those cookies. Hey, Lawrence got a Neanderthal head.
Yes.
Did it arrive yet, Lawrence? Probably not. It said it was just shipped. So we look forward to seeing pictures of Lawrence with his Neanderthal head, and see how that works and looks good on his shelf in a backdrop to a Zoom meeting and stuff like that.
So last year, was it last year or 2 years ago, the first time that I had Jesse Race come in? Well, it's 2 years ago we did this the first time, but I think last year was the first time that I had their like crazy maniac fries.
Oh my God. Oh my God. Yeah, that got eaten up. It got inhaled because we had in my suite, we had a number of people come. I think there were like 50 people in there. We won't do that this year because there'll be some distancing issues. But 2 years ago for Mickey and Russ's renewal vows, you brought in Jesse Ray's, and those sausages were too damn hot to eat. I had to talk about spicy.
But when they're on the maniac fries cut up, they're perfect.
Perfect. But if they're just a big old groovy sausage, it's
they're oof.
It's like ingesting lava. So
yeah, I talked to Mike of Jesse Ray's probably maybe a week and a half ago. Anyway, they're all good to go. So he's expecting. Well, his wife is expecting. He's expecting his wife to have a baby here shortly.
Okay.
So he'll be a new dad, and that's really amazing. I need to get over there. So many things to do, and there we go.
There we are. It's been 70 minutes. Been chatting about nothing and everything. A little bit of there. Where do we see self-publishing going in the next 30 to 90 or 90 to 180 days, Michael? What do you say?
It's going to be turbulent waters, depending on what genre you are. And normally, summers, which are strong, especially July and August, because at the end of the summer, people jump out in June, has been what my experience was. Of course, now that they did that, and now everything's cratering across the nation. I don't know that the states can afford to actually go back to where it was. So that's really, my cynical side saying that money will require things to go around. Just recognize that that's just that, taxes. You can't acquire taxes if people don't work. So I think there's going to be that situation. I think it's, keep pushing forward. This is a personal uh, statement of business thought process. I mark it into head into the headwinds. I've read enough, like I had mentioned before. I love entrepreneurialism. You mark it into the hard stuff. And so when everybody dropped out back when this all hit and everyone dropped out of Facebook, we did gangbusters because, well, one thing is because since I don't not market, I didn't think about the fact that it would uncover all of these ads that had been overpriced, well, priced out of the market, and all of a sudden I was spending a load of money because everyone dropped out, showing all of my ads that now they chose, we'll do yours. Well, of course you would. So
Yeah.
we had to cut our spending back to our normal amount of spending because
But
we
you
had
had a
jumped.
greater
Yeah.
impression, vastly greater number of impressions.
Exactly. So a lot of authors and indie publishers I know stopped their releases. I mean, they just stopped. I mean, there's no way we could stop anyway because we're doing 20 to 30 titles a month, and if you stopped for 1 month, 40 titles, mm-mm. We had already maxed out. We'll actually probably go reduce our title quantity a little bit.
Yeah.
That's just because we have a natural. We had done acquisition, if you will, of backlist the previous year, and we have been pushing those backlists out for quite a while. And so a lot of those are ending simultaneously. So some of our quantity of backlist titles are going to go down, and so we'll see fewer of those. But from a standard of just stories going out, we're not slowing down any.
I have been far more productive without the travel. So I'm
Hmm.
already at more books written. It's July 11th. I've got 2 more books written this year than I had planned for the whole year. I'd planned for 4 to 6. I already have like 8 titles written this year,
I
and
see. I told you suck at this whole retirement thing.
more to go. Yeah, more to go. So that's Ian Bragg came about because the opportunity. If I'm going to be sitting at home and not traveling because I had a lot of travel planned, then might as well get the books jammed out and keep twisting back and forth on the conference because so many changes. So I kind of stopped doing any kind of planning and just hanging on for a while until we can see who pulls out because we've had a number of presenters pull out and panelists and things like that. So we'll have to see how that shakes out, and then I'll redo the schedule. We'll probably contract into maybe 3 rooms or maybe all 5 rooms, depending on the spacing requirements, which Sam's doesn't know. So there's so many unknowns. I'm going to get jammed in September with, okay, now we know stuff. Okay, and then try to come up with, hey, here's what everything needs to look like, and then
The
and then still write a
purpose,
book.
yeah. I've been consistent in saying that the purpose of 20 books is to meet people, to actually get relationships built. And if you learn something along the way, that's fantastic. But it's not learn something and meet people. So, that's still my position because if we have to say, okay, we don't do 120 breakouts, we only do 70 breakouts or 50 breakouts, it's still worthwhile
Yeah.
because of meeting people.
Well, because we're going to have, and we record them, so anybody in the group, and then later puts it on YouTube, so anybody in the world can get what we
Hmm.
talked about, hear
Yeah,
what
safely.
like these uh, inane ramblings of stuff. But no, anybody in the world can get the knowledge. I mean, we share freely in 20 books of 50K. We share at the Vegas conference. We charge what our costs are, and I thought 200 gave me a great cushion, but now, oh my God, we have fewer and fewer people to pay for the our set costs as well. So once again, September we'll be figuring it all out. How much catering can we actually afford now? What about extras? And we'll get it all done. I mean, we already have 1,600 notebooks, pens, lanyards, and badges on hand. So if it's down to 1,000 people paid for 1,600. But there's a lot of people who are donating. Virtual conference, I put up a tip jar, and we'll be okay. We'll be okay. We're going to carry forward. We might be the only conference this year that actually happens. I know Mark's did in London, but after that was the absolute last show for anyone. And the next one could very well be 20 Books Vegas. Dragon Con has been canceled, even though we're still pushing Fratricide for best sci-fi novel of the year.
Which, by the way, that's the title of the book, not to go do that.
We're not killing our brothers. So just keep pressing forward. Keep writing good material, because what I'm writing now, I'll be able to sell that. That's legacy for my heirs. And every book you write is a book you will always have.
And they sell, and they go and market themselves while you're sleeping. You're sleeping.
All right, everybody. You all have a good time. Yeah, Nink is on for now. So they're hard pressed because they need the state to cancel that one. Otherwise, they have to eat all those costs themselves. And that is the price you pay when you sponsor a show. Yeah. Because like this, the only way act of God comes into play on your contract is if the state cancels it, saying, hey, people are afraid, I'm going to cancel my contract. Hey, that's fine. Pay the penalty. And as we see, the penalty is pretty much, if you have the show, here's the costs. So, yeah, Nink, we'll see. I think Florida may shut them down before then, because Florida's hurting big time. Their hospitals are full. So I expect they'll shut down any big events. And it's going to be last minute, and it'll be unfortunate. And Vegas, people drive in. We're going to do what we can, because it's all about the free steak, man. Free steak and ping, pang, pong. It's a whole reason to live, is to make sure you get the best Chinese on the planet. And this is from people who have been around the planet.
Yeah, been to Beijing, been to Shanghai. Good food.
Been to 40 different countries. And we ate Chinese food on the Sea of Galilee, kosher Chinese food. Ping, pang, pong is the best in the world, hands down. Not up for argument or debate or question. And if you do,
only the two of us have microphones.
That's it.
All right, everyone, have a good one.
All right, everybody, have a great day.
Take care.
Peace out.